Welcome to darkness. I want to ask you something simple and quick. It won't take more than a couple of seconds. Please click that like and subscribe button and smash that notification bell. Nothing is possible without your support. Thank you. After having 2 children, Jimmy started thinking about buying a bigger house so his kids could play at home in suitable surroundings. He was happy and excited to find his dream home, since he had been living in a small place with his wife and kids. Jimmy bought a house in the suburbs of Ohio at a very cheap price, right near the graveyard. He couldn't understand why this large and beautiful home was so inexpensive until that day. On that day, as Jimmy was heading to work, the cemetery employee stopped him on the way and asked if he was the one who bought the house right near the graveyard. Jimmy confirmed, saying it was a wonderful and big house that he had bought at a very cheap price, considering the quality. The employee looked surprised and said to Jimmy, "You must not know what happened in this house in the past, do you?" Intrigued, Jimmy asked what happened, and the employee warned him that he would deeply regret his decision of buying this house. Confused and concerned, Jimmy further inquired, but the employee didn't reveal much. Jimmy couldn't focus that day at work, as the words of the employee lingered in his mind. Why did the employee say that? Was there a spirit or a ghost in the house? Did something happen in the past that forced the previous owner to sell this house at such a low price? As Jimmy continued on his way, he couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling he had, nor could he sleep well from that day forward. After the employee's warnings, strange sounds started coming from behind the house, directly facing the graveyard. Jimmy became more and more anxious, trying to hide it from his wife. However, she noticed his unusual behavior and confronted him. Elena asked about what happened, but Jimmy decided not to tell her about the employee's warnings, choosing to keep the unsettling experience to himself. Jimmy went to search for the cemetery employee, but couldn't find him. However, he felt a strange sensation after entering the cemetery. His legs became weak, and he couldn't breathe, as if something had entered his lungs. He then went to the cemetery management office to inquire about the employee. They told him that the cemetery had been abandoned for the past 10 years, and no one had entered it. Jimmy asked about the reason, and they explained that there was a guardian of the cemetery, and anyone entering it would be cursed and would die instantly. Jimmy remembered that he had entered the cemetery before coming to the management office. Fear gripped Jimmy, rendering him speechless. He rushed home to tell his wife about it. When he arrived at home, he told Elena, "I met the cemetery employee, and he told me something had happened in this house in the past. That's why it was so cheap. I went to the cemetery management office, and they said the cemetery was abandoned, with a guardian in it who kills anyone entering it." Elena smiled and said, "Don't believe such rumors. It seems the employee wanted to buy this house before you and tried to scare you. Remember, none of these things are real in our lives. They only exist in movies. If the employee knew the cemetery well, why would he enter it? Furthermore, why would he work there?" But Jimmy started feeling optimistic, thinking that Elena might be right. However, he couldn't shake off the memory of the terrifying expression on the employee's face and the ominous way he spoke. And Jimmy started feeling a little more positive, telling himself that there was nothing to be afraid of. Since he'd been living there for a month or so, and nothing happened. However, When Jimmy went to work, he didn't see anyone near the cemetery or the house, and that troubled his mind. That day, when he returned from work, Jimmy decided to go to the cemetery behind the house. As he entered, he heard an unusual sound, as if an old man was screaming. He approached the source, and to his surprise, he found the cemetery employee near one of the graves. Jimmy called out to him, asking about the strange sound. The employee slowly turned around, gesturing for Jimmy to come closer. As Jimmy approached, something strange happened. The distance between them remained the same, even though Jimmy was running towards him. Confused, Jimmy tried to escape, but there was nothing behind him except graves. The employee spoke. "Why do you want to escape? You came to me. Why does everyone run away from me?" Suddenly, the employee appeared in front of Jimmy, looking transparent like a ghost without legs, and had a creepy, haunting smile. He said, "Didn't I tell you that you would deeply regret it?" And here ends the first part of the cemetery ghost story. Stay tuned for the second part to find out what happened to Jimmy, who the cemetery employee is, and what occurred in that house in the past.